AA Best Bail Bonds. Big game coverage live from Las Vegas. Powered by Southern Recipe Small Batch Pork Rinds, Synergenics, and 94.1 San Antonio Sports Star.
Welcome back to the Blitz here on 94.1 San Antonio Sports Star. Along with Joe Reinagel, I'm Jason Minix. Our AA Best Bail Bonds Radio Row coverage continues. Brought to you by Synergenics and Southern Recipe Small Batch Pork Rinds. Great to be joined by three-time Super Bowl champion Ed McCaffrey. And Ed, three-time Super Bowl champion, Radio Rows, it would always be about you. But your kid's in this game, and I imagine you're spending a lot more time talking about your son.
Yeah, this week's a little different. I've spent a lot of time talking about my son. He's been in the league for a while, but no.
Well, I was talking about the one at Rice, man. He's been incredible. No, I'm kidding.
He had the Senior Bowl last week. I've been talking about him as well. And Christian's been talking about him. It'd be pretty cool if those guys ended up playing together one day, but he's going through his journey. Last week, I have four boys. Lisa and I have four boys. Last week was about Luke. And this week's about Christian. So they're all coming out on Saturday to support him. And rarely do we get all of our kids together. I mean, four boys, it hardly ever happens. They all play football their whole life, and we're finally going to get them all together. So any holiday cards for the next 4 or 5 years will probably come from this weekend.
You know, when you talk about your son playing football, was that something that they just wanted to do? Did you push them towards that? How did that all work out?
That's a great question, because I think a lot of people think, hey, you played football, you obviously wanted your kids to play football. And I know that's the case sometimes. I had teammates who didn't want their kids to play ever. They're like, no, I don't want them doing what I had to do. And we were indifferent. We're like, look, we want them to do what they want to do. I think kids chase their dreams and they chase their passions. And if they don't want to do something, we learned this when we sign them up for piano lessons. If they don't want to do something, they're not going to do it. So we waited for them to ask. And our oldest son, Max, who's now coaching with the Dolphins, asked when he was 9 years old. And he was the first one to ask, and they start at 6 in Colorado. So he, it's 3 years after a lot of kids had already started playing. We're like, we're not going to say no if he wants to do it. Give it a shot. Maybe he'll keep playing. Maybe he won't. Who knows? But, I love football, so I was happy he wanted to play. And as soon as Christian saw that Max signed up, he wanted to sign up. He watched one practice, and he was just chomping at the bit on the sideline. He's like, can I play? Can I play? He wanted to run out and practice with Max's team, who was 2 years older than he was. So when Max started playing, Christian asked, and he started playing at 7, and then the other two started at 6. And, what are the odds all four boys end up playing football?
Yeah.
We thought for sure some of them would want to do different things. Our only rule was you're not going to sit around all day playing video games, although now they probably would be more financially successful if they did. But we're like, hey, you got to do something. We don't care what it is. Sign up for sign up for the chess club, or get a job, or do, some charitable work. But whatever you do, you're not going to come home and sit around. So whatever it is you want to do, feel free to go do it. And they played football and basketball and baseball and ran track and played lacrosse. And some of them did get jobs when there was downtime and did some other things. We just wanted them to stay active.
Well, nice. I imagine Kirsten's got a pretty good job right now, and so successful at it as we visit with Ed McCaffrey here on the Blitz. What makes Christian such a special running back? I mean, he is just so different than so many others that are playing in the league right now.
Well, I think it's a combination of things. I mean, physically, you got to have the size, the speed, the strength, the quickness. I think one thing that separates a lot of running backs is vision. I think Christian has really good vision. And then, the ability to catch the ball out of the backfield can separate him. So he runs between the tackles, runs outside. He's really good in pass protection. Backs don't get a lot of credit for pass protection, but it's a pretty big part of the game if you play running back. And then, he's really a receiver when he lines up in the slot. And so, you can throw screen passes to running backs, and you can have check downs or, flat routes. There's certain, Texas route. There's certain routes that all running backs will run. Not many can line up at the slot and actually run like a double move or a route like a receiver. Very few running backs in this league can do that. And I think that's going to be the trend moving forward. Back in the day, you got your thumper, first and second down. You bring in your third down back. But there's an advantage to leaving one back on the field the whole time, right? Because you stay in your base personnel. They don't know if it's a run or a pass. They're leaving their linebacker and safety in. They're not bringing in nickel defense to cover a receiver. Then you can create mismatches. And this game is all about mismatches. So he's one of the handful of backs in this league that is even able to do that. And I think he's proven that. And I think that's pretty valuable. And it ends up being like a force multiplier. So when you have a good run game like San Francisco has, but now also if you're going to throw a pass, you have an extra receiver in the backfield that we're not accounting for because we didn't switch to our nickel defense. and you want to bracket him because you don't want to guard him one-on-one, well, you got your tight end and George Kittle. You got your receiver and Debo and Brandon Ayuk. You got a fullback you can slip out because they play a lot of 21 personnel. Now it's just kind of a real challenge for defenses.
Ed, was there a point in time when Christian was growing up that you knew, oh, man, he's special?
Well, it sounds funny, but when he was 7, we signed him up for his first team, and he was scoring, 5, 6, 7 touchdowns a game. And you're like, I don't know what he's going to grow up into because he's 7, right? But he's really good for this age in Colorado. And, you think that if he progresses, because you still have to grow up, right? How tall are you going to be? How much are you going to weigh? How strong are you? You don't know at 7. So you kind of have to wait till they grow up. But he certainly was very gifted and showed that early. And then he just kind of kept progressing as he got older and older. And that skill level kind of stayed the same relative to the other players. But we're in Colorado. We're in Castle Rock, Colorado. What's going on in Houston, right? Or Dallas, or in the state of Pennsylvania, you're out in L.A. Like there's great Florida, right? There's great players everywhere. And you just never really know. But he certainly showed some promise early.
Ed McCaffrey joining us here on the Blitz, courtesy of Low T Center, lowtcenter.com. You talk about at 7 how good he was. And obviously at that point he's playing, and he's Ed McCaffrey's kid, so expectations are he needs to be good. But I saw a video that he put out the other day where I guess he was going on some college recruiting visits, and you put weights in his socks so that when it came time, if they put me on a scale but made me take my shoes off, at least I'd still be in my socks because he needed those extra 10, 15 pounds.
Yeah, well, that's a trick I learned from the Denver Broncos linemen who used to slip a 5-pound plate in the back of their tights because we had weight limits, and we had the lighter linemen who tried to stay over 300 pounds. And so if they were having a light week, they'd try to slip a plate in there. But, it's not everything. And by the way, they make you take your shoes off. You don't get away with that particular trick. The other trick I would have say, look, you got to down like 8 chocolate milks before, because they're going to weigh you right when you get there, first thing in the morning, because they haven't seen you in person, and nobody believes any weights or heights that are online, right?
Sure.
We'll believe when we measure you. That's what we'll believe. And so, he was on the lighter side. I'm like, I know you're going to grow. All our kids were a year to a year and a half young for their grade. And I'm like, look, some people just want to see a weight. And some people that don't know football well enough are going to judge you by your weight, even though today they don't do that as much. So just, be as heavy as you can in the morning and then go to the bathroom and you'll be good to go. So add a couple of pounds. But that stuff used to matter. Like, why, if it didn't matter, why would, you go to the combine, right? They measure your height. They measure your weight. They measure your wingspan. They measure every part of your body practically, right? And they're like, hey, we want to know what we're investing. You're like a piece of cattle. So we want to know what we're investing in. And so it's the same when you're visiting out of high school, going to colleges. It's like, hey, who are we giving the scholarship to? We'll probably bring in 1 or 2 guys. That's it at your position. You want to bring in the right guy. So you want to look good.
Ed, when you look at it, and obviously 3 Super Bowls for you, does Christian ask you questions like, I think when guys get to the Super Bowl, they think that that's going to happen all the time. And a lot of guys go to the Super Bowl once and then never get back there. Do you tell him how hard it is? And obviously he probably knows, but it's a very difficult thing to get to.
It's extremely difficult. And I think Christian understands that. And he certainly learned it because he didn't get there for his first few years in the NFL, right? But also has been part of a championship team everywhere he's gone for his whole life. So he's kind of expects to be in championship games. And I think that's important. I think most great athletes expect to be the best, expect to win the battle in front of them, and expect to play in championship games. So, like, every year he ever played in Little League, he was in a championship. Every year in high school, they won a championship. They won the Pac-12 championship, and he got to the NFL. And he's, football's a team sport. You can't will your way to a championship as an individual. You got to be on the right team, right? And that's why for so many of these players, what team signs you out of college matters. I tell players all the time, it's more important what team you go to than where you go in the draft. But I think, if he was honest, he'd say, I've always expected to play in a Super Bowl.
Interesting.
Yeah. Is he going to win Super Bowl MVP on Sunday?
Look, we just hope the team wins the Super Bowl.
Come on, Dad.
No, and that's the thing about this game. It's such a great game, right? But the other thing about offense, if a team wants to limit you or try to take you away, they can dedicate a lot of resources towards doing that. And now it's time for somebody else to step up. So if they try to take away George and BA and Debo, and then, Christian's going to have to step up and make plays. If they try to take away Christian, those guys have to step up and make plays. And obviously Brock he's in control of everything. So, and then your defense, right? I mean, your defense you could score a bunch of points and lose a ball game, right? So it's the greatest team. It really is. It's the greatest team sport in the world. I'm going to be just dialed in every single play, offense, defense, special teams. It all matters. And that's why it's so hard to do, to your point, right? It's like you can be a great player, and Dan Marino's the guy we usually refer to, one of the greatest quarterbacks in the history of the game, was way ahead of his time as a passer. Now, I can imagine what he would do in today's game, right, with how much we pass the ball. And but, he got there early and never got there again. So it takes a team to win. The best team will win. Patrick Mahomes gets a lot of credit, and he's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. But he can't will himself by himself to win either. It's gonna take one of these teams to play the best ball, and that's every individual winning the individual battles. The team with the most individuals that win the most individual battles wins the game.
How nervous are you going to be on Sunday?
Yeah, I'd like to say not nervous, but it's, dude, it's and there's a good energy too, right? There's a good nervousness. It's like when you're a player and you feel some butterflies before the game. That's a good thing. Your body's saying we're getting ready to compete, and then you get hit once or twice and the butterflies go away and you get refocused. But it's kind of a good thing. And I'll feel the same way. The only difference is the only person hitting me is Lisa. I usually get about 25 or 30 elbows in the game if I sit next to her. So I'll probably be icing down after the game as well. But I've learned to appreciate it, right? It's like life goes by too fast. You can't just be a ball of nervous energy all the time. Nothing I do, doesn't matter what I eat in my seats or what seat I sit in or how loud I cheer, nothing I do is going to determine the outcome of this game. So I've just kind of come to peace with that. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. I'm going to be there no matter what.
I love that attitude. That's
Absolutely.
great. Yes.
Ed McCaffrey, 3-time Super Bowl champion, joining us here on the Blitz. And what's very cool is, your son has a chance to win a Super Bowl playing for a coach that's the son of the coach that you won a Super Bowl with, which is very cool. And you talk about the ball of energy that you're going to have leads right into you're here with Low T Center. And if you're lacking energy, Low T Center can certainly help you in that area.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends. I'm in my 50s now. Not all my teammates are with me. And so early detection of anything is important, whether it's something serious enough that could cause death, which has unfortunately happened to a few of my friends, or it's something that controls your energy levels. And so, some of my friends, I'm in my 50s now, some of my friends try to be their own doctor and self-monitor. Look, you got to get medically monitored. Don't try to do this yourself. And I'm a really big believer in testing, right? And so my wife, Lisa, and I have gotten tested the last couple of years. And I think it's really important because, we're here as long as we're here. While you're here, you want to be healthy and you want to enjoy life. And there's too many people that are getting depressed, that are angry, that are irritable. It's affecting their moods and their attitudes and their friendships. It costs people friendships and relationships, and there's just no need to do it. Get tested. If you're fine, great. If not, there's something you can do about it.
Could you tell a difference in your life once you started with the Low T Center?
Yeah, well, I got tested the last couple of years, and luckily I tested pretty good in most areas. But, I think the important part is getting tested. So if something's wrong, you can get treated. And this isn't just for men either. This is for women as well. I don't know if new women can be low in testosterone. And, younger people out there listening don't know about menopause. You ought to find out about it if you're married, right? And it's like, but these things are controllable. And back, when I was living at home and my parents were my age, that they didn't know anything about this type of treatment. But the important thing is to test often. Early detection is critical. And then just think of it this way. I want to be my best version of myself, not just for myself, for my spouse, my husband or wife, my girlfriend or boyfriend, my kids, my family, my friends. There's no reason to be depressed, to be irritable, if it can be controlled.
Good stuff.
Yep.
LowTCenter.com to schedule that test. 3-time Super Bowl champion, Ed McCaffrey. Appreciate you stopping by. Have fun on Sunday, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, this was fun, Ed.
Thank you.